Apple's iPhone SE is the small, low-cost phone that's so good for so many people that it makes them question the very existence of $1,000 smartphones. And Apple has given it a refresh here in early 2022 that brings several of its features in line with the more expensive iPhone 13 at a fraction of the price. Apple sent one over for review, and after using it for a few days, it's time to talk about it. Let's do it. First, a quick iPhone SE history lesson. This is actually Apple's third iPhone SE. The first was released in March 2016 and kept the form factor of the iPhone 5 and 5S while having the internal power of the iPhone 6S. It was discontinued in September 2018, but this still supports iOS 15, which means this phone supported 7 major versions of iOS. The second iPhone SE was released in April 2022, sporting the popular form factor of the iPhone 8 while matching the internal power of that year's iPhone 11 devices. That 2020 version stayed around until this new 2022 model was introduced at Apple's peak performance event last week. That's also where Apple introduced the Mac Studio and the new green colors for the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro. Now, I already have a separate video on the channel about these if you want to check that one out. The new iPhone SE keeps that same iPhone 8 form factor, but sports the same A15 chip found in the iPhone 13 and 2021 iPad mini. By the way, if you're interested in picking up the iPhone SE for yourself, I will have a link down in the description below. Now, before we talk more about it, let's get to the unboxing. Inside the box, we won't find much, as is typical these days with smartphones. Just peel these 2 tabs on the back of the box and the bottom slides out. The iPhone SE is right on top, and underneath that, you'll find this little envelope with a SIM ejection tool and Apple sticker, and you also get a Lightning to USB-C cable as well. Now, if you need a charging adapter, you'll need to pick that up separately. This right here is the 256 gigabyte iPhone SE in the midnight color. And midnight is like a really, really dark blue that basically looks black with hints of navy when the light hits it just right. Now, it's also available in Starlight and product red colors in 64 gigabyte, 128 gigabyte and 256 gigabyte storage capacities. As far as the design goes, you have the familiar aluminum and glass design of Apple's 4.7-inch smartphones with the same tough glass that you'll find on the back of the iPhone 13 series. Of course, you have Touch ID built in with the familiarity of the home button for those who prefer it. But now let's talk about what's new with the iPhone SE this year. Let's start with the Apple A15 chip. The thing about the iPhone SE is that it's not the phone for the hardcore techies. This is the phone for the people who just want a good device that will last. That's what the A15 is all about here. I mean, sure, it's the same super fast chip that you'll find in the iPhone 13 with the 6-core CPU and 4-core GPU, so compute and graphics performance is even better than the latest Android devices. And it also has a 16-core neural engine, which allows the iPhone SE to do things like on-device dictation, and it lets the iPhone SE take advantage of the live text feature in iOS 15. Now, if you're upgrading from an iPhone 8, the 2022 iPhone SE has a 1.8 times faster CPU and a 2.2 times faster GPU, which is a solid upgrade. The A15 also allows for better battery life, which we'll talk about in a minute, along with more camera features. The new camera system on the iPhone SE, largely powered by the A15, unlocks several new features that weren't on the previous SE model. You get deep fusion for improved textures and detail in mid and low light scenes, Smart HDR4 that adjusts color, contrast, and noise on both the subject and background, photographic styles, which lets you choose your favorite look for your photos, along with improved video quality for better skin tones and reduced noise, especially in low light scenes. Next, let's talk about 5G. First and foremost, the iPhone SE does not support the ultra-fast version of 5G known as millimeter wave. That's the one that can hit multi-gig speeds. Instead, the iPhone SE supports sub-6 GHz 5G, as well as the newer C-band 5G. Those are much more widespread than millimeter wave and seem better optimized for the iPhone SE anyway. This is an entry-level device, and that millimeter wave version can definitely be taxing on your battery. Speaking of tax, I also think it's the 5G modem in the iPhone SE that's the reason for the slight price increase this year, but that's just a guess on my part. You'll still enjoy higher quality video streaming, lower latency multiplayer, and faster uploads and download speeds when you're on a solid 5G connection, even without millimeter wave. And you can enable smart data mode, so your iPhone SE only uses 5G when it won't significantly affect your battery life. And speaking of battery life, this one is big because the battery in the 2020 iPhone SE wasn't all that great. Thankfully, the new iPhone SE has better battery life for two reasons. First, Apple put in a physically larger battery when compared to the previous model, which is certainly going to help. Apple hasn't shared the battery capacity, so we'll have to wait for teardown to see exactly how much juice it has. But at the end of the day, battery life is what matters, not battery capacity. Second, with the inclusion of the A15 chip, the iPhone SE has a much more power efficient processor, which will also help increase battery life. So, what does all that get you? The new iPhone SE gets about 15 hours of video playback versus 13 hours on the 2020 model, 10 hours of streaming video playback versus 8 hours on the 2020 model, and up to 50 hours of audio playback versus 40 hours on the 2020 model. So in other words, it's about a 20% improvement in overall battery life. All in all, if you look at the iPhone SE and see an old design or huge bezels, then it's obviously not the phone for you, and that's okay. Apple sells several other phones that will likely work better for you and your preferences. However, if you see a phone that looks familiar, and if familiar is all you care about, then the 2022 iPhone SE is a phone you can buy now and hang on to for several years before you have to think about buying another one. It's the most inexpensive way for you to get a new iOS smartphone, and for Apple, it's a way for anyone with that smaller budget to get a device and start diving into the ecosystem and services like Apple Music, Apple Arcade, TV Plus, iCloud Plus, etc. You can order one today and they'll be available in stores this Friday, March 18th. Now, let me know, are you picking one up? Or do you know anyone who'd prefer the SE over a more modern iPhone design? Comment below and I'll meet you there for further discussion. Thanks for watching as always, guys. I appreciate your support. I'm Andrew Edwards and I'll catch you in the next video.